Good morning from Sydney. So we have come to the end of the year 2024. It's December 22nd, Sunday. Today we decided to take a walk in the Sydney city. So Sydney is where we live. It's our hometown. So we parked our car. Now we are going up. Uh, yeah, we just came. We live in the suburbs of Sydney, and then we drove to the Sydney city. And today, I don't know, the car park is pretty empty. So we'll take the lift up and see you guys there. Okay, we reached the top. We reached the surface actually, and behind me is the Sydney CBD. We are actually walking along a park, the ground. So you can see the Sydney Tower, and our destination will be the church, the Cathedral, St. Mary's Cathedral. Then after that we'll be walking towards the Sydney Opera House, which is a landmark in Sydney. Yeah, stay tuned. I'll show you around a couple of landmarks in Sydney, attractions. So today being a Sunday, doesn't look that crowded. Sydney is always like this. On weekdays it's full of people and full of activity, because being the Sydney CBD, all the people come to work here. But today doesn't look that busy. Laid back, people doing exercising, working out, strolling, chilling basically. So let's see you soon. We made it to the church. We walked from the car park, and behind me you can see the church. There are a lot of tourists here taking photos. Yeah, so St. Mary's Cathedral is an iconic landmark in Sydney, and here during Christmas Eve you have Christmas carols, and the Christmas market. It's not open yet. I think it will be opening in the evening. And you got all the Christmassy stuff, Christmas trees, and the manger. Let's go and have a look. Christmas manger. And of course the Christmas tree, the big Christmas tree is there. And the three wise men. got the three wise men actually on the other side of the manger. Alright, we'll be going into the church and then see you later. Alright, we came out of the church and now we are walking towards the opera house. Just see behind me is Hyde Park. So Sydney is quite literally a pretty new city. So Australia was founded in 1700s, pretty much similar to the US, but Australia didn't develop as much as US.
Take a photo without them, just like this.
Because Australia was mainly a convict colony. So most of the people who were in Australia for much of the initial stage were convicts brought over by the British from UK and Ireland. Only later on that Australia was not a major popular destination for immigrants because most of Australia is desert, the outback. And most of the buildings you see today like the Mint were built in 1800s. That's pretty old, but still there are not many such buildings. Like if you go to the US, you will see plenty of buildings that were built during that time, but in Sydney all these buildings are scattered, right? So that's what Sydney is. But even today Sydney is not like a major city in the US. For a developed country like Australia, Sydney is quite small, and after 6 p.m. all the shops close and everybody goes to bed, right? So from that aspect I think the government is trying to make some changes, trying to encourage nightlife and have the business run after sunset. So that's a good trend. And especially given Sydney is a very touristy city. We have cruisers coming to the Sydney harbour, bringing in hundreds and thousands of tourists. Given all of that, it's pretty surprising that Sydney is doesn't have a big nightlife. There's some kind of a tour group.
Were never used in any regard as a hospital. The Southern Wing became the first branch of
There's some kind of a tour group.
outside of London.
So this is also an important building. I will tell you what that is in a moment. So there are three flags. So one you see right here is the Aboriginal flag. That's for the native people of Australia. The one in the middle is the flag of New South Wales. That is the state where Sydney belongs. And the one in the corner is the Australian flag.
Oh, yeah.
Some kind of a government building. Anyway, we can't go inside, so it doesn't matter. It's not open to the public. Right. It's a Parliament House. So Australia is a Commonwealth, much like the US. So each state has its own government, and that is the Parliament House of New South Wales. Right. So that's where all the New South Wales laws are being made. It's like each state of the US. That's the Parliament House of New South Wales. And just next to the Parliament House, we got the State Library of New South Wales. So it's a public library. You can get free membership. I got the membership, but I never went there. So and the Parliament, the State Library building is quite big, and we've got a statue of a cat, and I'm reading the description. I'm reading it. Matthew Flinders inspired cat who circumnavigated Australia with his master 1801 to 1803 and thereafter shared his exile on the island of Mauritius, where he met his untimely death, erected by public subscription by teens. Right. So who's Matthew Flinders? It's this guy, Matthew Flinders. So he was a captain in the Royal Navy, and he explored the Australian coast back in the day. And that cat was his cat. So that's a bit of history for you. If you're a history freak, otherwise it won't interest you at all. Alright, so the public library is one of the larger surviving old buildings in Sydney. And there's another statue. Let's see who that is. Lieutenant General Sir Richard Brooke. Looks like an important guy, but I don't know who that is. And there's a large description there. I'm not taking my time to read that, but if you are interested, you can look up Lieutenant General Sir Richard Brooke. And this is the public library of New South Wales. It's got this Roman kind of columns, the architecture. I think this is Victorian era architecture. It's a pretty large building. And it's right next to Royal Botanical Gardens. What you see behind me is the Royal Botanical Gardens. It's like a park, nature park. Plenty of trees and a lot of flowers. So yes, now the Opera House is just walking distance from here. It's not that far. So what we'll do is we'll cross the street and just walk to the Opera House. There are two options. We can go through the Royal Botanical Gardens. Entrance is free. And also we can walk along the street. The quickest way is walking along the street, because walking through the park gardens is longer. First we'll cross the road and first we'll cross the road. It's a pretty dangerous road to cross. Cross the road and also I need to tell you that I am checking out my new camera here, the Sony ZV-1F. So my Europe trip, if you have seen it already, I used my phone to do much of the logging, but I realized that the quality is not that great and I thought it was a waste. So that's why I thought of buying this camera, which is quite good. It feels good on my hand, easy to operate. It's not heavy and the quality is quite good as well. So I missed out on it. I should have got this camera earlier. So yeah, so this is the first video using my new vlogging camera. So what I'm going to do is we're going to walk up to the opera house and then end the video. Alright, so this is kind of a trial run. So I came across another monument. So this monument is to the heroes of the desert mounted corps. So desert mounted corps were a part of Australian soldiers who fought in the First World War in the Africa and Sinai, Egypt, in the deserts with their horses. So that monument is to honor them who died during the war, First World War in Africa, the deserts. So on this side is the Royal Botanical Gardens. As you can hear, all these insects chirping. So there are quite a few entrances to the Royal Botanical Gardens. It's free. I have to tell you again, it's free of charge. Entry, there's no park entry fees. It's a good place to relax and to have a to spend your Sunday in a relaxed mood. And also the Royal Botanical Gardens borders the beachfront. So on one side you can see the water. So it's quite good. I think we should have coffee now. It's time for a coffee. As we Aussies do. We should try for a coffee, right? Okay. Right. Let's go for a coffee. Okay. We had a small coffee break. And now we started our journey. We're almost there. Some more old buildings. So if you are into Victorian architecture, that's the architecture in the late 1800s when Queen Victoria was ruling England. This is the place. We've got plenty of Victorian architecture, of course, other than England. So outside of England, Australia has pretty impressive number of buildings which were built during that time. Today is not that hot, although it's summer here in Australia, but today is not that hot, but it's pretty sunny. And walking in this shade is much better because it's much cooler. So also, if you haven't checked our Europe tour, please check out. So we traveled from France. We traveled from France we traveled to Netherlands, Belgium, then Italy. So if you haven't already, please check out the videos. And don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. So if you don't know, it's summer here in Australia. So because Australia is in the south hemisphere, when it is winter for the most of Europe and North America, it's actually summer here in Australia. So Australian summers are pretty hot, so it can get up to late 30s and 40s Celsius. So yeah, Australian summers are very hot, and it's just the beginning of the summer. So the hottest part of summer will be in January actually, January and February. So okay, we are almost there. Now we can see the opera house with the water in front of us. Another couple of minutes, we should be at the opera house. These are all apartments, and you could just imagine the price of these apartments right next to the opera house. When you talk about the opera house, you can't forget the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So these are the two main attractions in Sydney, and I will show you around this part of Sydney. And another thing when you mention Opera House is the Sydney fireworks, New Year's Eve fireworks. So it's almost New Year's Eve. It's not 22nd December, but on the New Year's Eve every year it's going to be fireworks. But there's something going on these days with the trains. There's a major train strike in Sydney. So that's the question, if is Sydney fireworks going to be cancelled. So the government is still negotiating with the unions to call off the strike so that the Sydney fireworks can go on and take place, so people could come to Sydney from all over Sydney, Greater Sydney area. So you can already see banners being put up for Sydney New Year's Eve. Those banners are for Sydney New Year's Eve. So all these plans could be jeopardized if the train strike happens. Okay, you can see the Harbour Bridge and Sydney Opera House. Opera House is just here. It's full of tourists. I mean, I've seen this I've seen it more crowded than this, but still a little bit crowded. Yes, we have cars going through. Okay, as I told you, Sydney is home, is a destination of many cruises. There is one such cruise ship.
Where's that shake?
I will show you. You can see behind me there's a cruise ship, and
It's holiday, you don't have to worry about that.
that's Opera House. So
Your holiday,
So many tourists come here. So you might have seen Opera House plenty of times on the internet, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining what the Opera House is, but you can just think that Opera House is the icon of Sydney or whole Australia. So when people think of Australia, the first thing that comes to their mind is the Opera House. So Sydney and Opera House are not two things, but just one. They're the same, I should say. So people, Australians from all walks of life come here. Tourists and Australians alike come here on Sundays. To be honest, today is not the most crowded of the days, but still quite a number of people here. Many tourists are here. So I think I've been in Sydney in Australia for like 8 years now, and I've come to see the Sydney fireworks a couple of times. So in fact, on the New Year's Eve, you have to come early to book a spot, because it can get full quite easily. I will take you closer to the Opera House. So if you are in Sydney, one more thing you can do is to get a ferry. So you can take the train and come to the station called Circular Quay, and from there you can use the same train pass actually to get a ferry to anywhere. So from here you can get a ferry which will give you another view of the Opera House. So let's quickly go close to the Opera House. Let's run.
Mommy, look, it's a restaurant. Mommy, it's a 5-meal restaurant. Stop eating. Oh my God.
So you got restaurants in the opera house. People come for fine dining and all that. So yeah, so Sydney's been our home for like 8 years. So it's not my first time here, definitely. And yes, it's considered a very expensive city, not just in Australia but in the whole world. But big cities are like that. So I hope this video was helpful if you are planning to visit Sydney. So, and also one more thing, you could do the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb. So you can actually book a ticket and climb the bridge to the right, to the very top of it. We did that. We did the bridge climb. It's not cheap, but you can do it. And also the ferries, you can see the ferries. Sydney ferries, where is it? You can see those small ferries there. These are actually ferries, public ferries, and you can use the same ticket as you would for the train. You can use the same ticket to travel in the ferries. So you can go from here to different places like Bondi Beach, most of other places using the ferry. Alright, I think that will be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and don't forget to check out my our Europe trip videos, which will be older than this. Just check them out. We visited many parts of Italy like Florence, Naples, Milan, Venice, of course, and also other parts of France. So check them out, subscribe and like our videos, and if you have any comments, don't forget to comment as well. See you.